Hey guys, it's Miss Sheffield. This is my first attempt at an on-screen teaching experience. I've never done this before, but I wanted to give you something a little different to watch instead of a video. Maybe you don't have to watch me. I'm not the important part, but this information is an important part, and I want to give you some Miss Sheffield tips for how to remember how the seasons work, how to remember their names, how to remember their dates, how to remember, more importantly, where are they when Earth is going around the sun, which season is which, because you're going to be expected to know where's the summer solstice in this image in the northern hemisphere, where's the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, where's the autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere, what day does it occur on, that kind of stuff. You're going to be asked questions like that on your quizzes and on your test, which we will eventually take. You have a quiz this Friday over seasons, which includes rotation and revolution and axis. So I hope you are paying attention, and I hope you're doing your daily assignments for science, because that quiz grade will go in the grade book. Okay, so let's start out. So the first thing I want you to know is all seasons have a first name and a last name. We just don't call them summer, fall, winter, spring. They go by summer solstice, autumnal equinox, winter solstice, and vernal equinox. I know vernal is a weird word for spring, but that's what we call it. So that's what you're going to have to remember. When you see vernal equinox, that is spring. Okay, so I'm going to be using those terms, those names in this video throughout. Okay, so when we're talking about seasons, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to memorize this image of Earth and I'll always get the seasons right. That's not true, because I'm going to show you in a minute how everything's going to be reversed when I change the picture. Okay, so we're going to start with just this picture now. So anytime you're looking at an image of the sun surrounded by 4 Earths, I want you to find the axis. You know the axis is an imaginary line that travels from the North Pole to the South Pole. Find the axis and find the image of Earth that has the axis in the northern hemisphere that is pointed towards the sun. So in this configuration, this Earth has the axis pointed towards the sun. So that means this northern hemisphere here is experiencing the summer solstice. The summer solstice date is June 21st. And as the northern hemisphere is experiencing the summer solstice on June 21st, the southern hemisphere, the opposite hemisphere, is going to be experiencing the opposite season from summer solstice, which would be the winter solstice, and it's on the same day, June 21st. So every sign that I put up here from now on is going to be according to the northern hemisphere, the season in the northern hemisphere. So if this is summer solstice, let me get my summer solstice sign. I will put that there. Summer solstice in the northern hemisphere is June 21st. Now, if you remember from previous videos and the Nearpod lesson and the article, Earth revolves around the sun counterclockwise. So when you learned the 4 seasons back in elementary school a long, long time ago, I hope you remembered them in order. Learn them in order, because it goes summer solstice, autumnal equinox, winter solstice, vernal equinox. So in other words, summer, fall, winter, spring. Or you might say spring, summer, fall, winter. Or you might say winter, spring, summer, fall. I like starting with winter preferably. Or personally, winter, spring, summer, fall. That's because it's in a song that your parents probably know. But anyway, so after the summer solstice, 3 months later, we get the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere. the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere is on September 21st. Okay, so if it's the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere on September 21st, on that very same day, what season do you think the southern hemisphere is experiencing? It's the opposite of autumn. Spring. So the vernal equinox on September 21st in the southern hemisphere. And then we go 3 months later, and here we are, opposite of summer solstice. So the opposite of summer solstice is going to be the winter solstice. The winter solstice is on December 21st in the northern hemisphere. But on December 21st, while the northern hemispheres experience the winter solstice, what do you think the southern hemisphere is experiencing? Summer solstice, the opposite of winter. You got to remember, summer and winter are opposites. So when we're experiencing winter solstice, the opposite hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, is experiencing the opposite of winter solstice, which would be the summer solstice. It's on the same day, December 21st. Okay, so then after our winter solstice on December 21st, 3 months later, what season comes after winter? Spring. So we have our vernal equinox on March 21st. Guess what day is coming up on Saturday? The vernal equinox, the first day of spring. Now, it might feel like spring right now, and it kind of does outside. It's kind of nice. But the first official day of the season is the vernal equinox on March 21st of this year. So on the northern hemisphere, we're experiencing that this Saturday. This Saturday, March 21st, the southern hemisphere is going to have their first day of autumn, their autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere. So those are the seasons in order all year long, the first day they occur on. And I want you to remember that we have 12 months in a year, right? January through December is 12 months. We have 4 seasons, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if there are 12 months in a year and there are 4 seasons in a year, how long does each season last? 12 divided by 4 is 3. So each season lasts 3 months. That's why when you start in June, because I always find summer first, pointed towards the sun, June 21st, you start with July, August, September. Notice September 21st. To go from autumnal equinox to winter solstice, you start with the month after September. That's October, November, December. December 21st is the first day of the winter solstice. Now, I neglected to point out that the reason I want you to find summer solstice first is because it's easy to tell where the axis is pointed towards the sun. So that's summer solstice. And then opposite of summer is going to be winter. Look at the axis in the northern hemisphere for the winter solstice. It's pointed away from the sun. Now, these two are the tricky ones. Autumnal equinox and vernal equinox, they're the trickiest because on a flat surface such as this, it looks like the northern axis is pointed towards the sun, or the southern axis up here is pointed towards the sun. But in actuality, it's not, because Earth is not flat, the sun's not flat, so we don't revolve around the sun like that. If I put a ball in the place of that sun and I took this magnet off of the board and I put it in front of the sun as if it's revolving in this direction, can you see that the axis is pointed up? This axis is pointed down. It's not pointed towards nor away from that sun. I'm going to put it a little lower so that you can tell. It's not pointed towards the sun. It's not pointed away from the sun. The back side of this earth that you can't see because it's flat right now, the back side is what's facing the sun. So it's getting equal light in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. If I were to turn it around, then you couldn't see the earth, so it'd be hard to tell. But anyway, so if I hold it like this and I revolve it around the sun, it's not pointing towards the sun, it's not pointing away from the sun. But once it gets over here, the tilt of Earth never changes. You're not ever going to see, put this back, you're not ever going to see one tilt going this way, and then this image over here, the tilt changes directions. If you do, it is wrong. Do not think it's correct. As Earth travels around the sun, the axis will always stay pointed the same way. If I picked up the sun, because I'm like Herculean, and I put it in front of the autumnal equinox, the sun is giving equal light to the northern and southern hemispheres. Can you see that? It's giving equal light to the northern and southern hemispheres, but the axis is not tilted towards the sun. It's not tilted away from the sun. That's why it's called an equinox. Equal day, equal night. I'll put my sun back there. It's getting heavy. The sun's pretty huge, you know. Anyway, so those are the 4 seasons with the axis pointed in this direction. But I told you I was going to show you why you can't simply memorize